What's going on, guys? This is Raw Dawg Sports. I am Mike. That is Evo, and there is a snake in my boots. My man, how you doing? Welcome in. We got some basketball going on tonight. You already rocking the Wolves gear. My Cavs currently playing right now, got an 11-point lead. We got baseball to talk about. Crazy situation happened out in Pittsburgh. We're also going to go back. We're going to take a look back. We just got done with the NFL draft, but you never know how good a draft is until a few years later. We're going to go back to 2022, and we're going to take a look at that draft, who got it right, who got it wrong, what pundits got it right, and what pundits got it wrong in their grades. We're going to see how this all shakes out. But my man, Evo, welcome in, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Honestly, I had forgotten that the Wolves were playing tonight, and then I popped on the Twitter machine after work, and I saw it was Game 1, Wolves and Golden State. So that should be a fun one. Excited for Draymond Green and the rest of my Wolves squad to get in a fight because that seems to be a pretty common occurrence. But no, I'm doing good, brother. Rocking the Raw Dawg swag as well. We've got to see about getting some of these for the people out there. But yeah, excited to watch some ball tonight. Look, playoff basketball is the only basketball that I really like to pay attention to. So I'm happy that I can be invested because my team's playing, you know?
Yeah, same. I am not an association watcher. I'm not going to try to pretend that I am a big watcher of the association and I know a lot of things. When it gets to playoff time, specifically past the first round, that's when I start getting invested. The first round matchups, there were a couple of pretty good first round matchups, but I wasn't invested in most of these teams. Your series, I thought was going to be much closer. Didn't.
Lakers in 5, baby.
Close. Yeah, Lakers in 5. Yeah, except for it went the complete opposite. The Golden State, though, listen, they get a big series win. They get to face you guys, a 6 seed versus 7 seed. You have to feel like you got a pretty good shot going in here. I know it's Steph and everybody, but
I mean, look, there's a lot of names on the Golden State squad that, you know, they scare me more on name appeal for sure than the Rockets would have. But even so, like I look forward to this because it is going to be a good series. Like it should be competitive. And if it's not, hopefully the non-competitive portion of it is leaning towards my Wolves. It's exactly what Anthony Edwards said he wanted. He wanted the matchup with Golden State, specifically because Draymond likes to talk a lot of trash, which, you know, they're going to be jaw-jacking. Anthony Edwards might be one of the best in the game at talking shit, as you got to see when he was walking around in L.A. After they took the series. Talked a lot of trash, talked about how, you know, he's dethroned the king and everything. And look, if he was playing on any other team, I would respect the shit talk, but also I would probably fucking hate him. So I'm glad he's my guy. I love it. Because otherwise I'd have to talk some mad shit back. But, you know, I love Ant. Bring that ass Golden State. Looking forward to that tonight. It's going to be a fun series.
Yeah, man. My Cavs did not get off to a great start. Game 1 was tough. The injuries started to pile up. Darius Garland was out that game. Continued injuries that happened in Game 1. Fouls that were not called that should have been called. I was a little annoyed as somebody who doesn't watch a ton of basketball. I was even like, man, where the hell are the whistles on some of these in crucial spots? Because the Cavs fought like hell to make it back. Great defense there by the Cavs. I got the game up now as well. Nice 12-point lead.
That was just a fucking air ball, man. That was just a fucking air.
Oh, no, that's great. Listen, that just extended the possession out. Great defense. Good team D there. Listen, They need a win tonight. They have got to find a way to get home court back when they go out on the road to Indiana. Losing game one at home, not great, but I have a ton of faith in Donovan Mitchell. If we get some health, we're going to be just fine. I still got Cavs in this one. I had it in Cavs in 5, but now with the injuries, Cavs in 7 is more likely just because we're going to see who we get back and how quick. I mean, dislocated thumb is not something you just come right back from and play basketball with.
Right, for sure. And look, you guys are doing good right now. You're currently up by 12, about to go into half. So not bad. From what I've been watching so far in this game, real good defense from your squad. And Indiana does not look too sharp. So unless they, kind of flip things around here, the amount of steals and stuff like that I've seen so far by the Cavs looks like Indiana is playing sleepy. And with injuries, you should be trying to take advantage of this situation. So
Donovan Mitchell, just his pace of play, man, the start-stop. I love it. I love watching Donovan Mitchell play basketball. But I won't get too locked in on this game. What do you got prediction for your series? Tips off tonight, Timberwolves, Warriors. I assume you're going Timberwolves, but I want to know how many games you're going.
I'd like to see Timberwolves in 5. That'd be cool. But I mean, the real test truly is watching that first game. I feel like you can start to get a feel for the matchup after that, how competitive it's really going to be. Wolves getting that home field or home court advantage, I think is definitely pivotal. And the thing that I felt about the Wolves the entire season is, like, obviously they're a good team. They're talented. They got a lot of young stars on that team, but it felt like they were kind of almost sluggish through the season. There wasn't a whole lot of emphasis. It was like, let's just get into the playoffs and then we're going to turn up the heat. And that's exactly kind of what we've seen in the playoffs, is that they've amped up. They seem like they have a little bit more pep in that step, which is a good thing to see. I'd rather see it entirely through the season, but I mean, they're relatively healthy, good to go. So I like the idea of us in 5, especially because Golden State, they've got, like I said, they've got some good players. They've got some names, but they are a little bit more aged out. That veteran, leadership is a good thing as long as you can maintain your level of play. It's a little bit easier to do that in basketball, in my opinion, than in other sports. But I like our odds of kind of outpacing them, because that's what we saw in that Lakers series. Guys like LeBron, Fat Luka, they just, were not able to keep up.
Luka was tough.
Look, it's going to be sad not seeing all the LeBron flops and things like that, because, I don't watch that much basketball, but just in that series alone, I got to see several good ones. The one making its rounds around Twitter and the memes and stuff like that of him being, just popping the eye up. Is anyone watching? Just like a little kid to see, like, if they're throwing a tantrum and they want to see, our mom and dad actually looking. No, it's just like, it was bad. Perfect, but bad. So, we don't get to see those sort of flops or anything anymore. But I'm sure Draymond's going to give us a couple good ones as well. He's well versed in the bullshit.
Somebody's taking a shot to the nuts.
Whether it is intentional or unintentional, I expect it to happen. Probably some scuffles. Gonna look forward to that. I don't know how in that even the last game for Golden State, how they didn't have more legitimate, like, texts called on, like, Draymond. Like, there was some bullshit out there. We'll see.
The matchup, seeing Ant and Draymond go at it is going to be must-see TV. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, look, when Draymond has tried to choke out Gobert before, there's going to be that tension on the court. Yeah. So it's drama. It's great storylines. That's kind of what you want to see in the playoffs, right?
Absolutely. It's absolutely what we want to see. All right, man. Let's change directions. Let's jump over to college football for a little bit, because there was some big news. News that has been kind of brewing for quite some time, but officially now, there has been some sort of suspension handed out to Michigan's Sharon Moore. Michigan has imposed a 2-game ban. This 2-game ban will be over games 3 and 4 of their season, which are against Dick and Shit, Central Michigan and Nebraska. So I don't think they're all that worried about it. This punishment, it comes from the Connor Stallion's advanced scouting scandal, i.e., cheating, for Michigan. So, based on everything that I know of what happened with the situation, Michigan was told that they had a bunch of violations. 6 of them were tier 1, like the worst they could be. So Michigan has decided they are going to impose this 2-game suspension. Is this enough for Michigan to keep themselves out of more trouble? Because this seems like a dog shit punishment. You're going to suspend them for the 3rd and 4th game of the season, not even the first 2, but that's because it's the first one to get ready and the second one against a big-time opponent in Oklahoma.
Look, it's weird. You're trying to get ahead of the problem and self-capitulate that you're going to say, hey, we're not saying we did anything wrong. We're just going to go ahead and punish ourselves so you guys can feel better about it. You would think that the NCAA would have already imposed some sort of suspensions or, penalties, otherwise financial and whatnot. If they really, I don't want to say if they had anything. It seems like there's something out there, but NCAA can still obviously punish more and the school if they want to. But it's kind of like the guy that they want to go after is the head man, and that's Harbaugh. Harbaugh's not there, and now they can't really do anything, and it's tough to put that on more as much. I don't know. It's a weird situation. All right, did we lose me? Or did we lose Mike? I don't know. I'm going to say we lost Mike. All right. But yeah, look, interesting situation here. Obviously, being weeks 3 and 4, Michigan is trying to ease themselves into this, and I don't even know who they're playing up. It's Central Michigan and Nebraska, which Nebraska is probably going to be a good game. I don't know about the Central Michigan game. It feels weird to me because if there was an actual problem, you just feel like they would have already, NCAA would have handed out suspensions and whatnot, or financial penalties against the team, things like that. So it's almost like Michigan is capitulating and saying like, hey, we're going to take this penalty. Hopefully this will get the story done and over with. And this is the way to do it, to have the least amount of effect long-term on their season. I think it's fine, I guess, because until the NCAA comes out and says, yeah, for sure that we have something against them, and actually levies, some sort of issues against them, I don't know what it really matters. If I were Michigan and the NCAA comes out with some other penalty, I would reverse the Sharon Moore self-imposed suspension, obviously, and move on from there. So it is confirmed. Mike's computer took a poopy again. I assume it's because he was watching basketball and doing the podcast, but that's all right. And thank you, Amber. Yeah, the LeBron peekaboo. It is fun to watch that. Either way, I know Mike has vitriol towards Michigan because of the Ohio State-Michigan rivalry. And that he's looking forward to some sort of actions being taken against Michigan. I'm not like a Michigan fan at all. Like, partially to an extent, I suppose, because JJ McCarthy went there, and I've been a fan of like uniforms and stuff when I was a kid, but was never really like that hardcore of a Michigan fan. I feel like if NCAA had something to really go after Michigan with, they would have already imposed something here. And I know Mike's out for blood with them. We'll see. We'll see what happens in the long term there. Once we get him back in here, obviously we'll get his thoughts on it. I assume that he wants more, potentially even.
God damn it! So I can't watch basketball at the same time.
Yeah,
your computer's overloaded. The amount of shit that I have to run at one time is just too much for what it is that what I can handle here. So we will not be watching the rest of the basketball game. while the show's going on. So, Evo, I'm going to ask you for some updates.
Oh, not much, man. I'm just saying, like, 2-game suspension, it feels like, to me, if the NCAA had something on them, I feel like they would have already levied a suspension. Obviously, they can levy a suspension after the fact. They can still do it, despite this 2-game self-imposed suspension. But I feel like this is Michigan's way of kind of saying, like, hey, like, we're in this weird limbo. We're just going to do this. Let's move on and call it a day. But until NCAA actually comes out and says, like, yeah, there is a violation and we got you and this is the penalty. Or if they were to say, like, hey, they are at fault for this. We know it. We are still deliberating on the suspension or what we're going to do. Like, with the NCAA basically staying quiet on this thing, like, it's kind of a non-issue for me. And it's a smart move by Michigan to just say, hey, we're going to do 2 games. We're going to do them when we kind of decide. Because we are self-imposing them to mitigate the issues from it, and we'll move on from there. I mean, I also said, if I was Michigan, if we get some sort of further suspension and things levied against us, we'll just pull back the Sharon Moore suspension and be like, okay, actually, NCAA stepped in, so we'll just do it. They're gonna penalize us,
Yeah. It doesn't make sense to me on how they can get away with this level of suspension. But at the same time, we say it's Harbaugh. I think it's come out that Sharon Moore knew quite a bit about what was going on, especially with the entire Connor Stallion situation. So they could probably go at him for something. Do I think that this is enough? No, probably not. But honestly, if we really want to get technical with it, who gives a fuck? The NCAA is going to go away eventually anyways. It's only a matter of time now before all of this kind of folds up. College football is changing. Everything about it is changing. There is no way that the NCAA is going to maintain some sort of firm grasp on everything that's going on. There's going to be a commissioner of some sort of massive league. Everything is going to change with the way college football is done. So, in the grand scheme of things, does it matter? No, not really, because the regular season doesn't matter. College football and its entire landscape has changed because of NIL.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I think it's good, especially here in the off season. Like, we've talked about NIL before, the transfer portal, things like that. I think it's probably a good conversation to have on one of these episodes coming up about issues with NIL or the transfer portal or both, and ways to kind of rectify the situation, because it truly is kind of getting out of hand. Like, we've been proponents of the players getting paid, and I think NIL in that respect is probably a good deal. But I would also argue that the way that players can transfer in order to get this money probably is not a good thing. I understand coaches leaving in different circumstances, and there probably has to be different guardrails put out there as far as when a player can leave. But I've seen some stuff kind of tossed around, ideas of like, hey, the moment you sign an NIL deal, you are locked into that college, and so that would potentially stop players from jumping ship, moving around, seeing 3 different schools in 4 years or something like that. Something like that. I don't know, but it seems like no one is tied to these teams. They are literally just starting the program way early, except for it's way more on their terms. And it sucks for the schools and whatnot. And it can suck for certain players who might have gone to a school and not gotten that same sort of NIL deal. Now they're not on as good of a program because guys are jumping ship. Like, it's just such a weird landscape.
I feel like it's a little bit of a get back for the athletes, because for the longest time, coaches were able to jump ship whenever they wanted. Coaches could pull scholarships for damn near any reason. Scholarship was basically only 1 year. It was no guarantee that you were getting it for 4 years. So the fact that these players are taking advantage of that, it kind of makes sense to me, because the disparity that we saw before. There needs to be some sort of a middle ground. Now, what that looks like, I don't have a good answer for that. Because if you're going to try to lock a kid into a school for taking an NIL deal, when I sign a new coach that signs these kids to this school and gets them these NIL deals, if he's allowed to jump ship, why the hell shouldn't they be allowed to jump ship? It's part of a systemic problem there.
There should absolutely be certain guardrails where there are allowances for a kid to leave, even if they sign an NIL deal. It's just, what are those? As of right now, it's basically fucking willy-nilly. You can just go to the highest bidder. These kids are basically becoming money merchants. In this environment, I can't say that they shouldn't do that. Go get your money while you can. Okay. Like, absolutely. But you're still going to run into situations like Nico Imaleva or whatever, how the fuck you say his name. Like, he just lost himself a lot of money by going out to UCLA and getting, lost a bunch of NIL money and is getting taxed out the ass. Like, you're going to have situations like that where the schools are going to try to right the ship to some extent on some of these things. Mm-hmm. But in the grand scheme, it's not really working. But I think that's probably a much deeper thought episode that we need to do sometime here in the future. So look, if you're watching right now, you like the content that we're putting out, you think that we should be talking about stuff like that here this NFL offseason, please comment, let us know. If there are topics that you want us to go over this offseason, comment and let us know, please. Also, if you would be so kind, take a moment and like, share, and subscribe. Everyone out there watching on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, we love you. We appreciate you. Thank you. Take just a second, like the video, subscribe to the channel. We'd really appreciate it.
Well said, my man. Well said. All right, so let's transition to just a wild story. And for people who maybe have not seen it, viewer discretion be advised. What I'm about to show you is pretty graphic. If you have not seen it, Evo, do I need to blow that up? How's that look?
It's relatively small, but we can work with it.
All right. Well, that's what she said. I didn't do nothing. All right. So, in Pittsburgh, there was a fan. It looks like he got very excited. Evo, have you seen this video?
I've seen it, yeah.
I don't know what happened. Apparently the man is now awake. But there was a scary incident that took place. So once again, viewer discretion be advised if you are a little squeamish. You're going to be looking right around this area to start this video. Gets very excited, and then there he goes over the top. Now, when I first saw this, and I don't want to keep playing that over and over because what a wild thing that happens to this guy. It looks like it's maybe intentional. Because he got excited. He gets excited, jumps.
It looks like a straight jump up and like a trip over.
Yeah, the way it looks was so weird. There were some people on the internet who obviously are terrible people. There's always terrible people on the internet that were making jokes. I'm happy to hear that this guy is starting to wake up. It's still going to be a long road. I don't think that they have released the full extent of his injuries, but last I read that he is now finally awake. You'd have to think of just the most insane thing that could possibly happen at a sporting event. To be like that. That's the wildest thing that I think I've ever seen. That didn't involve maybe the Malice at the Palace is another one that's just like, holy shit, I cannot believe that happened. But this is one of those things that's like, holy shit, it looks so surreal. What were your thoughts on this when you saw it, man?
I mean, look, maybe I'm one of those terrible people. People getting hurt is funny to me.
It was a little funny. He looks like
you laugh at people taking nut shots and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and tripping over stuff all the time. Like, this was a serious one. Look, we're veterans.
He's not dead. I just want to make that. Yeah.
Dark humor in the veteran community is a thing, and it's the way that we cope with our fucking traumas and the weird shit that we've had to do and see and all that. So, I don't personally like watching videos of like dudes getting their heads sawed off by the cartel and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
And I have seen those, but a level below is the tragic injury video, and this is one of them. So look, I hope that this guy makes a full recovery. Like, I want full recoveries for these people that these things happen to, and it doesn't always work out that way. All right. But I hope he has a full recovery, and I hope that this is something after the fact that he's able to laugh about, because look, the tumbling is funny. The situation is hilarious. Hopefully he is able to have some sort of recollection as to what the fuck happened.
I don't think so. I doubt that's happening. He's probably gonna be like, I don't fucking remember that at all.
But also, there are people sitting right next to him. How have we not interviewed the people to his left and to his right, being like, what did he do? I'm assuming he jumped up with a little bit too much forward force. Sometimes you sit on the toilet too long, your legs go to sleep. He might have been sitting there, legs asleep, get up, and now he's got nothing because he's got dead legs and just right over the top. I don't know, man. Either way, fucking sucks. Hopefully they don't start adding like nets like Top Golf or something to baseball games, because that would be funny. And because that's going to just invite the opportunity for fans to be like, I'm gonna fucking jump intentionally.
Hang on, brother, because there is a new video that producer Amber has just sent to me that shows from the backward angle what happens. Let me try to get this up here real quick.
That's what she said.
There we go.
Or that's what you said to the wife. Something like that.
6 and 1, half dozen the other.
Look, again, ladies and gentlemen, if you love this comment, please whip out your wiener just like your wife and tap it. Tap it right on that little button. Tap it on that
tap
button. Tap it on the subscribe button. We would really appreciate it. Sorry for the dirty talk.
I'm not sorry. You guys are listening to Raw Dawg Sports. You knew what you were getting when you showed up.
Yeah. Like a raw here. What can I say?
Okay, so this video, she sent me a thing that sends me to a link. I don't have a video here. Oh, nope.
Is it about to get X-rated in this bitch?
Well, no, let me get past the CBS News here that we're about to get copywritten for.
Oh, and then
oh man. All right. Well, we're gonna probably get dinged, but this is interesting. Let's present a new screen here.
Look, my plan is to get dinged tonight anyway, so
there we go. So there he goes. Like what's he doing, bro?
That
looks
like like he was trying to jump up and do like the monkey, like on the bar, and then slips.
And then man.
He was already shirtless, so things were he's
a little
very alcohol induced there, probably. I don't know. This looks like a high school kid though. There, I don't know.
So that was from high school. I believe he was a pretty good athlete. Okay, so he's getting a little excited. He's a little tossed already. He's wearing no shirt. It looks like you can see his hand slip just off the bar.
And momentum takes you forward.
And then your life is changed for forever.
Yeah. Look, best case, he makes a full recovery and is able to spin this off into a social media type career, go on Barstool, things like that, sit down with Big Cat and PMT or something. Maybe get on Raw Dawg Sports. Look, we would love to get an interview if you have the ability to still talk.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be fantastic.
Otherwise, if you want to try to get sign language, we'll get a sign language interpreter or something like that.
I took it. I'm not
so you know how to read gang signs.
Ish.
All right. Well, sorry for everybody out there who I guess if he's like paralyzed, he's probably not throwing up gang signs. We're probably talking Stephen Hawking, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you think with the way he lands, it looks like he goes head first.
Yeah. I love baseball. All right. My bad.
Don't be mad at us. Okay, let's get off of baseball and this poor Pirates fan. However, that's what you get for, like in Pittsburgh. Are we ready to start talking about football? We're going to go in the Wayback Machine. Not that way back, though. We talked about it a little bit in our texts, but I think that most people, content creators, pundits everywhere in the world, knows that you can't judge a draft right away. It takes a few years, typically about 3-4 years to figure out if a draft is any goddamn good.
But that doesn't stop us from giving out grades, just like we did last week.
100%, because that is content. And just like everybody else, we're trying to make you want to watch us.
Yeah, you go to any major content creator who has been putting out draft content, you will hear that rhetoric. We can't really grade these guys yet because we need to see how they do. Some of these guys take time to develop. 3 years is a good mark to check and see what sort of a grade these teams deserve. But in 3 years, you've already moved on. So all those same content creators, ourselves included, are going to give you our immediate impressions, which end up coming out as grades. And Chad Reuter from NFL.com, obviously is known for his mock drafts and draft coverage and stuff like that. He did just that as well. That's what we're going to kind of be looking at here today. And lost Mike because he was gone earlier.
Sorry.
You're good. So look, from April 30th, 2022, almost a year, 3 years ago to the day, we had his draft grades. All right. So want to roll through these. I'm not gonna lie. I looked at these like a week or so ago, and I was like, wow, this is way off, or wow, I don't even remember some of these names. So it'll be interesting to look at here. Arizona Cardinals, an A- grade. They get Trey McBride, obviously a pretty well-known name there in the NFL, one of the better tight ends in the league. But beyond that, they don't have a whole lot of staying power here. Some names that vaguely sound familiar, but this is a team that got an A-, and to my eye here, you got like one really good player out of this draft. I couldn't tell you case by case for the rest of these guys.
Now, the value that you get here with Trey McBride at 55 overall is also very good because he is a huge part of their offense. He was basically the main part of their offense last year. So to get him here is a great get. A- though is obviously high considering that most of these guys are non-producers on this Cardinals team, or were never producers. Some of these guys are not even on the squad anymore.
Yeah, and look, this was obviously a second-round pick, and if you look a little bit further down there in the analysis, this was when Arizona traded for Marquise Brown. That was part of the reason why they didn't have that first-round pick, I believe. And they got a B+ for day one of the draft because of that. I would say that the way that Marquise Brown played on that team was not too great. There's a reason why he's not on the Cardinals anymore. So it really, 3 years in the future, now we get to look back and be like, yeah, you got a good player out of this. But overall, for taking 8 players and trading for a 9th, you got maybe one legitimate player out of this draft. It's kind of tough to call that an A-. Obviously I would give an A for Trey McBride, but beyond that, we're kind of looking at a C to a D grade here for guys who aren't really moving the needle.
Yeah, I agree, brother. I agree.
All right. Atlanta Falcons, B+. So they take Drake London, number 8 overall, Arnold Ebiketie at number 38, Troy Anderson at 58, Desmond Ridder, obviously not with the team anymore, but he did start for them for a while. Tyler Algier, pick 151. Overall, like obviously the Desmond Ridder situation did not work out, but they did get some decent players out of this. Troy Anderson is a starting linebacker for them right now, and he had some pretty good games last year. Arnold Ebiketie is a decent rotational edge rusher. But Drake London, obviously considered one of the better wide receivers in the league. I'm not as high on him as some, but he's still a number 1 receiver in the league. And then you get guys like Tyler Algier at 151, who is a big-time role player in that offense. So they got a B+, but I would actually say out of this draft, you're looking for guys who are starters or who are getting legitimate time. You've got at least 3 guys out of this draft that you're getting that out of, and you want to have at least a 30 to 40% hit rate. They kind of achieved that. So a B+ is probably the right area for this draft.
Yeah, I like this draft as well. The Drake London, I'm also not as high, But I think the Tyler Algier get late in this draft is great for them. He is a big part of that offense, like you brought up. He's kind of that a little bit more thunder to the lightning. Desmond Ridder obviously doesn't work out, but they've had to take shots. They were trying to find a guy. They're still trying to find their guy. They think they have one in-house now, but they still have two guys who are
they think that they have a couple there now in-house. But if you look back, we're looking again, 2022. General Manager Terry Fontenot addressed the team's other major needs on day 2, strengthen a poor pass rush with Ebiketie and Malone. It obviously did not work out then, and it really hasn't worked out since. They're taking another shot, going after multiple pass rushes in the first round this year. We'll see how it goes. All right, Baltimore Ravens, an A grade here. They wait and sit and get themselves a Kyle Hamilton, center Tyler Linderbaum, a guy who I know that we were both pretty high on, David Ajabo, Travis Jones. These guys are all starters or rotational pieces. Daniel Faalele from Minnesota, offensive tackle, who is a starter for them. And then you look down here at pick 139, Isaiah Likely, who is developed into one of the better tight ends in the league. Tyler Batty is getting some run around the league. He's no longer there with the Ravens. Overall, this is a pretty fucking good draft. This is a fucking A+. Yeah. Kyle Hamilton, one of the best safeties in the league. You have starters at center and tackle for them. Travis Jones is a rotational starter for them on the defensive line. David Ajabo, obviously a pretty damn good defensive end. Really good draft for this Ravens team. So an A here makes sense, but this really did turn into probably an A+ draft.
Yeah, this is a killer draft. They've been kicking our ass for so long.
Yeah. Buffalo Bills with an A grade here. Kaiir Elam seemed like a good pick at the time. He's really not turned into anything. Yeah. James Cook at number 63 obviously is good value for a guy that is one of the better running backs in the league right now. Terrell Bernard, Khalil Shakir, Matt Ariza. Say what you say about him, but he's a damn good punter still because he's punting for the Chiefs now after he's been cleared of everything. Christian Benford at cornerback. Those are all guys, all names that are contributors and still out there in the league doing decent things outside of Kaiir Elam. That was it seemed like a decent pick at the time. Like one that I thought was good for them because they needed that cornerback help. And it just sucks that he was not able to develop. But overall, still, to me, this is probably an A- type of draft.
I would agree, man. I would actually say because of the offensive pieces. One of his Josh Allen's most steady targets in Khalil Shakir. And then obviously James Cook has emerged as a workhorse running back when they absolutely needed to take some of the pressure and the carries away from Josh Allen. So you look at what this draft was able to do offensively. I think it's huge for what the Bills continue to do. And it sucks for Ariaza with all the things that have come out. Say what you will, as you said, but like, he obviously caught on again after everything was revealed that it kind of wasn't his fault or nothing happened. However it went. But like that's another good pick. Is a great fucking punter in the league. So yeah,
pretty damn good draft. Now look, I don't remember this, but Bills got the cornerback that they needed in round 1 through a trade up. That obviously that trade up now in hindsight doesn't look good. So either way, this draft, as it all shakes out, turned out pretty good for that team. Carolina Panthers, an A- grade here. So I know you weren't a big fan of Ike Ekwonu.
I still am not, dude.
But he is still a starting piece on this offensive line, and they do have a decent offensive line. Matt Corral, obviously that was a train wreck, but at pick number 94, I guess that is mitigated a little bit, but still not too great. Then you got Brandon Smith, Amari Barno, Caden Mays, and Kalen Barnes. Kalen Barnes is a rotational player in the league still. They're at pick 242, which is pretty good for him. But out of this, you have one player that is really legitimately doing anything in the NFL right now, and that is Ike Ekwonu, because he is a starter for that team along the offensive line. Panthers got an A- grade, an A for day 1, B for day 2, and A for day 3. Overall, this draft probably is way closer to a C type of grade for me at this point.
Yeah, this is not a good draft at all, man. Ike Ekwonu is an average tackle, 38th rated tackle according to PFF. Matt Corral obviously didn't work out. I have been burying this Panthers organization for a while on their draft picks, and nothing has really changed. Nothing. Nobody here is like showed up and showed out that make me change my mind.
Yep. I believe that Sam Darnold was still on this team as well. It's they previously traded second round and fourth round picks in the deal for Sam Darnold. Obviously that didn't work out there. Chicago Bears, A- grade here. They get Kyler Gordon, Jaquan Brisker, Velus Jones, Braxton Jones, and then a whole bunch of names beyond that. I believe guys like Doug Kramer is still in the league, but they're in a backup type of role, which makes sense for a pick 207. That's perfectly fine. But out of these top 4 picks, Velus Jones is still in the league. He's not a big time contributor. Braxton Jones, obviously there are some issues there as far as whether or not they're going to continue with him going forward in Chicago. They are this year. But he might not have a long future with Chicago. But Braxton Jones to pick 168, and you're getting a guy who is at least an average starter in the NFL is pretty damn good. But Kyler Gordon and Jaquan Brisker, 2 very good picks there at pick number 39 and 48. So 2 guys outside of the first round. It's a top heavy draft for this Bears team. An A- grade that they were given there. I'm looking at, again, it says day 1 grade of an A, but you're talking about day 2 being their good day, and they got a B+ here. I actually like their day 2 here. Those 4 guys in particular, a solid top end of their draft, and guys that they're still utilizing on this team. That's really what you want to see is your first several picks, especially through the first 3 rounds. Those are guys that you want there contributing by the end of that first contract. And those guys are, for the most part. You're taking a whole bunch of shots with the later round picks. Those ones obviously didn't work out as well as they could. But not a bad draft here. I'm still putting this as probably like an A- B+ type draft for them. But if we're only looking at those top 4, it is probably an A- for me.
It's not a bad draft. I'm not as high as you are. I'd probably go B+. I do like their day 2 because the value that you get. You got guys that are still starters. I'm not as high on those starters as you are, but listen, they're not playing bad. They didn't play bad. And the fact that you get Braxton Jones, that's a day 3 guy. So that's a great pick there. It's not bad. I'm just not quite as high as you are. I'd go B+.
Yep. All right, Cincinnati Bengals. Love this. Talked about this earlier. First pick there, pick number 31, defensive back Daxton Hill. I had to look him up, right? And let me be real here, ladies and gentlemen. When you have to look up a guy from a draft 3 years ago, especially when we do what we do and we pay attention to football, like it would be embarrassing if he was like a full-time starter or something like that. I had to look it up. I think this last season he had like 240 snaps, which for a defensive back, not very good. So that kind of tells you that why is this happening?
I don't know.
Why is this happening?
I don't know. Bring me back.
StreamYard.
Yeah.
When a team is getting an A- grade here, they're wrong. All right. Daxton Hill is a rotational guy at best right now. His best grades were from 2024, but again, he had like 240 defensive snaps. That is not very high volume. Cam Taylor-Britt, a guy, another Jag, but he's still playing. And then I had to look at these other guys. Zach Carter, not on the team. Cordell Volson, Tyson Anderson, Jeffrey Gunther. I don't believe any of these guys are contributors whatsoever. An A- grade is very far off here. We're looking at a D at best.
This is a fucking F. But for me, it's an A. This was great. Good job, Bengals.
Yeah.
Keep these up, boys. Keep these up. Fuck. All right, here we go.
All right. All right. So
this is not bad.
The trade for Deshaun Watson happened here. All right.
Okay, so it was really bad.
So day 1 grade of a C was given to them because they had to give up stuff to get Deshaun Watson. However, you get Martin Emerson at pick 68. Pretty damn good pick here, right? And then I'm going to kind of let you go through. I mean, we got Jerome Ford, who's obviously been a contributor on this team that you guys got at 156. Outside of that, and some work from Cade York there at 124. Probably too high to pick a kicker, in my opinion. But I want to get your thoughts here. a B grade for this Browns draft from Chad Reuter. Where are you at today?
Chad, it was very sweet for what he said. Listen, Martin Emerson 2 years ago was fantastic. Last year took a huge step back. Alex Wright, rotational guy. David Bell, not on the team. Perry Winfrey, not on the team. Cade York, not on the team. Jerome Ford just took a pay cut, and we drafted 2 rookies. Isaiah Thomas, I don't know if he's still on the team. Like, he's been
Don't skip over Mike Woods.
Oh, yeah, Mike Woods has been on. Another guy that we keep bouncing back and forth from the practice squad. This is a terrible draft, and you consider all the things that were given up for Deshaun Watson. This is an F. It is a stone cold flat F. I think Martin Emerson can be a solid player, a very good player in a defense that gets pressure. They didn't help anybody in this draft. It was just a bunch of fucking dart throws because we went for Deshaun Watson, and we didn't hit on dick and shit except for Martin Emerson.
Yeah, this was a rough one for sure. Definitely a poopy. All right, Dallas Cowboys up here, B grade. They get Tyler Smith, Sam Williams, Jalen Tolbert, Jake Ferguson, Deron Bland. These are all guys that are contributors. Yeah. Like, you can talk about the absolute value, but these are guys who are all starting or contributing in some way. I mean, obviously, look, Deron Bland is a starting outside cornerback in the NFL right now, one that is getting a high volume of interceptions, which is pretty damn good value at pick 167. Working up from there, Jake Ferguson, obviously starting tight end for this Dallas Cowboys team, and is a pretty solid tight end. And then you're getting work out of Sam Williams. But Tyler Smith is a good offensive lineman on this team, one of the bright spots that's left on this offensive line for the Cowboys. Day 1 grade, they get a C for getting Tyler Smith in there. And maybe at the time it seemed bad, but obviously he is, I would say, probably top 20-ish at his positional group in the NFL right now. I know he plays some tackle and some guard. Like, not too bad to get him there at this point. They get a B grade here. I'm leaning way more towards a B plus A minus for this Cowboys draft.
Yeah, it's not a bad draft. Tyler Smith playing guard for the Cowboys. Rated pretty good by PFF, 22nd rated guard. Obviously you take him, has him listed here as a tackle, but you fail inward in the NFL. Jake Ferguson here is a great get. Deron Bland, obviously. I have varying opinions on him because I think he gives up way too much, but he gets so many picks that, you can kind of live with that so much.
He's an interception merchant. Same way that Diggs is there. And that's the type of defense that they're running. Like, you are getting high volume from him in certain respects. Some defenses way shade over coverage and prefer the turnovers because of their impact. Like, to get that sort of production, regardless, just interception wise, 167 is good. Don't get me wrong, I'm of the same ilk as you. I would prefer a guy who's not going to get as many interceptions, but is going to prevent scoring by having better coverage. But for what you're getting out of that guy, I pick 167, pretty good.
It's a good draft. It's a good draft for them.
All right, Denver Broncos, an A draft here. Nick Bonito, Greg Dulcich. I don't even know who Damari Mathis is. Ayoma Uwuzurike. A whole bunch of other guys. I know Luke Wattenberg's still kind of around. But look, Bonito is a good pick. I really, really enjoyed the Greg Dulcich pick at pick 80. Not bad, but he has moved on from the team there, and they have looked elsewhere for tight end help. Outside of Nick Bonito, who is a solid player, this isn't a very good draft.
No, they don't have much here. They do not have much at all here.
A rating from me for Nick Bonito. The rest of it is a D to an F, which brings this total average grade down to me as like a D minus to an F.
So what? This is also the same draft where Russell Wilson was sent to Denver for first round picks. So the fact that you get, an A grade for the Russell Wilson is obviously a huge miss. That's, not obviously very, very wrong. Nick Bonito is a good pick. Greg Dulcich is a good pick-ish. I mean, but the value, the long-term value that is maintained here, I just don't see it.
Yep, and we did get a producer note here from Amber. I did check big news.
Hell yeah.
One of the guys that we watched, one of the young kids that we've highlighted on our previous show, the Lyman Lounge, Malachi Cooper, got his first D1 scholarship offer to play some football, University of Northern Alabama. Props to him. That is fucking awesome, young man. That is awesome.
Fuck yeah, absolutely, Malachi. That is so fucking cool, dude. D1 offer, doesn't matter where it is. That's such a great accomplishment, and you got a couple more years. I cannot wait to see how you continue to grow as a player. I assume everything is going good with rehab. So, young man, congratulations. I cannot wait to see how everything turns out.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Continue on here. Detroit Lions, they luck out because the Jags don't take Aiden Hutchinson 1 overall. That allows him to go to the Lions. Good pick there. They also trade with my Vikings in order to move up and get themselves Jameson Williams, who the jury is still out on him. Obviously, he's got some speed, some ability, but he has also stepped on his crank a little bit, had injury issues. So question mark there. But Josh Pascal is a rotational defensive tackle, pick 46. Kirby Joseph turned into a very good defensive back for them there. They get Malcolm Rodriguez, a guy that we love. After that time on Hard Knocks, he's not as big of a contributor as before, but obviously, even if he's playing a backup role, like he's a very solid backup to have at pick 188. Yeah. And things didn't really work out with James Houston there. Jackson State edge at 217, even though people had high hopes for him. But overall, look, you get Aiden Hutchinson doing what he did last year alone. Like he is a tier above most defensive ends in this league, which makes this pick fucking fantastic. And they get outside of that a whole bunch of other good role players here. They got a B+ grade for this draft. And I obviously have certain feelings about the Lions because they're in my division. They're doing well. But that being said, I got to give them at least an A- for this draft. It's not an A. They did a really good job here.
Yeah, well, you get one of the best guys, if not the best guy from this draft in Aiden Hutchinson. Obviously the best pass rusher. Jameson Williams has had his moments. Pascal's a rotational guy. But, man, like, these are all guys, once again, that kind of fit. They're rotational pieces. They do what that team wants to do. The Lions have been selecting their style of guys for quite some time. And it's worked out really well. This is another good draft.
Yep. All right, Green Bay Packers here. They took Quay Walker at number 22, Devontae Wyatt at 28, and Christian Watson at 34. Quay Walker, a guy who they just declined his 5th-year option. Obviously, he's a starter and a contributor, but he's never really kind of hit his peak. Devontae Wyatt, also just a quiet contributor, but a starter on this team. Christian Watson has had some explosive moments, both on the field and in his knee, which has kind of relegated him to being a bench player right now because he cannot stay healthy. You also have guys like Sean Ryan, Romeo Dobbs, Zach Tom, all contributors and starters at least at points in time in their career. And then Kingsley Enagbare, I can't even say his name, but he is a starter at linebacker for this Packers team. Rasheed Walker, starter, 249, pick 249 at offensive tackle. And Samurai Toure got a little bit of play, I believe, somewhere in the NFL. I remember that name popping around again last year. Look, I don't like the Packers. Fuck the Packers. They got a lot of solid contributors out of here. No one that really stands out to me as like a boom player. However, because of how many of these guys are still contributors on this team, I would have to give it probably an A- at this point. They kind of got guys all throughout this draft class that are still starting on this team. And that's super, super solid value. Like you would hope in a draft class here where they had how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 picks. You would hope that out of those 11 picks, you'd have 3 or 4 guys that are starters and contributors. They have well over that. So I hate to say it, but this age grade is probably correct.
I'm a little surprised because I'm a little lower on this because the value at which you get some of these guys, Quay Walker at 22, Devontae Wyatt 28, Christian Watson at 34. That's a lot of high-end talent that you have a chance to go out and get. And most of these guys, while they did play a little bit, they're not high-end talent. Christian Watson has been I mean, and call it fucking the Aaron Rodgers effect. He's been a goddamn enigma. Looks like he has all the physical talents in the world, can't catch a cold, but I do not think that this is as good as you are giving it. I was gonna say a B plus, just because there are a bunch of guys, but the value kind of stinks with how many shots they had in the top, 2 rounds, that they didn't get one that was like just a super solid player. I think that knocks them down a little bit for me.
All right, I'm glad to hear it. Houston Texans get a B grade here. And with this B grade, they get Derek Stingley at pick number 3 overall. He's turned into one of the better cornerbacks in the league. Sauce Gardner also in this draft class. That's where they probably should have gotten dinged. Was I believe Sauce was in this one, right?
Yeah, Sauce. Yeah. He went right before Sauce did.
Yeah. And so, you flip-flop those, and I feel better about it. But either way, Stingley is turned into, again, one of the better cornerbacks in the league and just earned himself a huge extension. Kenyon Green at pick number 15 was a huge flop. He is hot garbage. But then beyond that, Jalen Petrie, starting safety for them, pretty solid. Christian Harris, solid role piece. Damian Pierce at pick 107. They got a really good burst from him early on in his career.
2 years, man.
And now he's that kind of rotational guy. A whole bunch of kind of whatever's after this. Obviously, John Mechie, you had the issues. I believe it was a cancer or leukemia that he had come up with. And so we really haven't seen a whole lot from him yet. But overall, B grade here for this Houston Texans team. Looking back at it now, obviously, what really drags them down is that Kenyon Green pick. If you didn't have that pick there and had someone else that was a role player contributor, this is probably closer to an A minus, B plus type grade for me. But because of the Kenyon Green pick, this is taking this to a B minus for me. You do get 2 really good starters here in Derek Stingley and Jalen Petrie, and role players in Christian Harris and Damian Pierce. That's still putting it in the B class for me.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I was going to go B minus as well here. Obviously, the Kenyon Green, and I think we talked about that quite a bit during that draft. This is also, if you want to talk about things that went well for them, getting additional picks in this draft for Deshaun Watson, huge perk for them. Now, they didn't necessarily make it the best they could have, but the fact that they got multiple shots, he's not very good.
Producer Amber, what happened with Kenyon Green is he just sucks. He's just not good. Yeah. And that's why they have
2 years,
a pretty terrible offensive line.
I think it was just 2 years before he was.
He's been moved off of that line, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
All right, moving along. Indianapolis Colts, you got Alec Pierce at pick 53, Jelani Woods at tight end, Bernard Raymond pick 77, Nick Cross, Eric Johnson, Andrew Ogletree, Curtis Brooks, and Rodney Thomas. Alec Pierce is obviously a solid receiver for them. He's turned into their deep threat kind of receiver. Still has some work that he needs with his hands. However, at pick 53, you're getting a solid contributor there, a guy who's considered like a number 2-3 type receiver on that team. Jelani Woods plays a little bit of that tight end, but Bernard Raymond turned out to be a pretty good offensive lineman for them at pick 77. This Colts draft got a C grade, but comparing it to some of these other ones, I think it's higher than a C because you're getting a little bit of something there out of those top 3 guys. I probably am leaning a little bit more towards a C plus, maybe a B minus. I'm really trying to be generous here. But then if you look down at this analysis, Carson Wentz trade, that cost him that first round pick. And that really kind of doomed this team for a little bit, put them into the pit in the situation that they're in now, where they go out, they are able to draft a guy like an Anthony Richardson, and that pick obviously hasn't worked out since. So that's really what was pulling this grade down for them back 3 years ago, and it still probably is leaving them right around that C grade for me.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. You see what they're trying to do. They want to try to improve that offense. They were trying to find anything to get something going. Obviously, the trades for quarterbacks and everything that's happened has made it incredibly difficult. Alex Pierce is a nice piece at 53. But Jelani Woods is nothing more than a rotational backup tight end. And Raymond is a replacement level starter. Like you could find somebody to slide in for him in a heartbeat. Like you're not worried about anything that's going on with this. So yeah, see, if you really wanted to be excited about Alec Pierce's like projections, C plus.
Alrighty. Jacksonville Jaguars. They get a B plus in this draft. Trayvon Walker, you can say what you want. Obviously, overdrafted as the number 1 overall pick. This was under a different era where, you've got a GM who has a certain type of guy that he likes, and he dropped the ball. He went after Trayvon Walker, who got a lot of hype, and he's turned into a decent player. Not a number 1 overall pick style player, though. Devin Lloyd obviously has kind of had his ups and downs. Is he with your team now? I can't remember.
No, Devin Bush is with our team.
Devin Bush, that's the one. Luke Fortner is a starter, I believe, out there for them. Chad Muma gets some run at linebacker. And Snoop Connor obviously has been around the league a little bit, despite having a sweet name, isn't a sweet running back.
All name team, though, for sure.
Absolutely. Look, this got a B plus grade back 3 years ago. I'm a little bit more towards a B minus here, just because the value of getting Trayvon Walker, while he is a starter level player, you could have had Aiden Hutchinson, and that almost tanks your draft completely, in my opinion. But you've got some guys who have done some things in the league. I'm leaning definitely towards B minus, C plus, probably a C plus.
So I would probably be in the same range. The Trayvon Walker thing is a tough sell. Now, obviously, when this draft is happening, there was so much talk about the measurables, because that Georgia defense was fucking insane. The dudes that were coming off of that defense. But Aiden Hutchinson has not missed one beat. Now, obviously, we'll see what happens coming back from the injury. He is putting out some workout tapes of him, doing the rehab and coming back. But I think it's safe to say that Aiden Hutchinson was the better pass rusher out of this draft. Even with missing the time that Aiden Hutchinson has now missed, he still has, I think, almost 10 more sacks than Trayvon Walker at this point in their career. So that drives down the Jags pick, their grade for sure in my mind.
All right. Next up, Kansas City Chiefs. A grade here. They get Trent McDuffie, who is a fantastic slot cornerback. George Karlaftis, who was just moved this offseason, but gave them several good years. Sky Moore, I know a guy who you were a big fan of, really hasn't turned into whole much. Brian Cook, Leo Chenal, absolute role player on that team. Josh Williams, Darren Kennard, Jalen Watson, who is also a starter on this team and has made a big impact when he is off the field there at pick 243, pick 251, and Isaiah Pacheco, who is a starter in this league, at least a rotational guy in that backfield, solid. And Najee Johnson. Look, they got an A grade here. The fact that you get Trent McDuffie and George Karlaftis there in the first round, both guys who have given you up until this year, obviously Karlaftis, is no longer on the team, was traded, but those two guys are high leverage, high value starters for you. And then to get that sort of value as you go further down in Chenal, Jalen Watson, and Pacheco, this is still an A grade for me, if not an A plus.
Yeah, this is a slam dunk. I was very sad that Sky Moore did not pan out. I was so high on Sky Moore. I loved, his route running, or what I thought his route running abilities were going to be. Just did not work out with the Chiefs. And if you can't make it in the Andy Reid offense, I don't know that you're going to make it too many other places as a wide receiver. But so many things on here are hit. I mean, Chenal, I think, is a pretty good linebacker. I mean, that Kansas City defense has been fantastic. And they got a bunch of pieces for that Super Bowl winning or Super Bowl attending defense from this draft. So this is a slam dunk. And Pacheco, I mean, who doesn't love watching that motherfucker run angry? It's a great pick.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Vegas Raiders get an A minus grade here. They get Dylan Parham, Zamir White, Neil Farrell Jr., Matthew Butler, Thayer Munford Jr., and Britton Brown. Dylan Parham, I believe, is still on the team. Possibly. I don't remember.
Let me look.
Zamir White, they had some high hopes for him, but he hasn't really panned out. Look, this is a Raiders team that did not draft until pick 90, until the 3rd round. I'm not giving them an A- on this draft at this point. This is probably like a C at best for me.
So Dylan Parham is still plays for the Raiders. Played well last year, ranked 24th out of the guards. So played well. But Zamir White has been nothing more than a 1-week fantasy prayer for a few people. So yeah, you can't, with the short number of players and the late rounds in which you get them, and you consider that they traded a ton of guys for Devontae Adams so you lose out on all those assets. It's not a very good draft. I would give this a C minus.
All righty. LA Chargers. Zion Johnson. They get an A grade here. Zion Johnson, the first round, number 17 overall. I had super high hopes for him. I really liked Zion Johnson. He has not really turned out that great. JT Woods, Isaiah Spiller, Otito Ogbonnia, Jamari Saylor, Jasir Taylor, Dean Leonard, I don't fucking know, and Xander Horvath. Point being, they got an A grade here, and this whole draft was shit. Like, Zion Johnson, I believe, is still on the Chargers, and they are still trying to work him as part of the offensive line, but I don't think that he has graded well, basically at all in his career. Unfortunately, again, guy from Boston College, I had really high hopes. I thought this was a fantastic pick for him, but no one else here turned out. You got a grade there for me on Johnson?
65.7, 47th out of guards.
Yeah, which, for a number 17 overall pick is not good. I'm giving this an F. This is an F.
Damn, an F?
Yeah, look.
Well, fuck yeah. I mean,
Zion Johnson is the only player. He's the only player on this list that is worth their salt at all, and he's not worth a first-round pick based off of his play.
Yeah, Jesus.
I liked him at the time. A pick at the time, but the rest of the draft at this point, like,
they got Khalil Mack in this draft for picks, right? They traded for Khalil Mack.
Yeah,
I'll give them. They get a fucking C- for trading for Khalil Mack.
The Khalil Mack part of it would maybe make it a D- for me. Like, this draft just sucks cock. LA Rams. This is another one of those fuck them pick seasons, as you can see by picking with their first pick at pick 104. Logan Bruss, Jacoby Durant, Kyron Williams, the highlight here. Out of Notre Dame at pick 164. Quentin Lake, Darion Kendrick, Daniel Hardy, Rusty Easton, AJ Curry. Look, this was, again, fuck them picks. They traded their first and second round picks for Stafford and Von Miller, as it's listed here. Those are obviously good gets. And then getting Kyron Williams on this team, obviously a good get. I'm still going at like a C grade for this draft, because unless you are counting them as having drafted Matthew Stafford and Von Miller, which I don't really factor that in, you got one good player out of this in Kyron Williams. Very good value forward there, but it's not going to save your draft. This is a C grade for me.
So I've been giving people props for their trades and making them pay for their trades. So I'm going to give this a better grade than you did. I'm going to give this probably a minus, because you give up a first-round pick for a starting quarterback and you give up a second-round pick for a premier pass rusher, that they both take you into the Super Bowl and they win the motherfucker for you. You get that out of your first and second-round pick, that's an A in anybody's draft. So since I'm going to maintain the consistency that I've been going with, I understand the fuck them picks. The guys that they drafted, ain't none of those dudes hardly fucking even doing shit now. But when you consider what they did with the capital they had, they did a damn good job.
For sure. All right, Miami Dolphins get a B grade here. They had their first pick at pick 102. Part of this is for going out and getting Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Or in drafting Jalen Waddle, moving to get Jalen Waddle in previous drafts. Either way, I guess that's going to make this a good draft for you, huh? Because they got Skylar Thompson at pick 247, a guy who I love the value of at pick 247. But this is still an F draft for me.
Yeah.
Maybe you can try to talk me into the Tyreek Hill, working them up to that D- territory again, but I'm going to struggle.
No, well, no, because listen, they didn't use this fucking pick from this year. Well, I guess they did 2 years prior though. So I'm not gonna count that. This was terrible. I guess I should a little bit. I'd give them a C-. They didn't pick anybody worth of value though.
Yeah. All right. My Vikings, they get an A- grade here, traded back, got Lewis Cine. They got kind of, rolled over in that trade with the Lions. It was not good value for us. Lewis Cine, not on the team anymore, not good. Unfortunately, snapped his ankle in half in his first year playing special teams. Andrew Booth, not on the team. Ed Ingram, bad pick, not on the team. Brian Asamoah, on the team, but at pick 66, a rotational special teams guy. While I like Brian Asamoah for what he provides to the team, very bad value at this spot. Caleb Evans gave us some decent work, pick 118. He was a solid pick for that spot, but still a liability, not on the team. The only guys on this list that are still on the team, Ty Chandler, who's our third string running back, very well might lose his job this offseason, and Jalen Naylor, who has worked himself into that third wide receiver role and really only got to see playing time this last year because of injuries. I'm giving this draft, Kwesi Adolfo-Mensa's first draft, probably an F+, D-, like not good. I can say that this is better than like the Rams draft because we got two players out of it who are kind of doing something for us in Ty Chandler and Jalen Naylor. But that's like, I'm at that D- level here. This is not a good draft for my Vikings because we did have plenty of draft capital. We got screwed in a trade down that did not look good. We could have just sat and stuck and took Hamilton instead of Lewis Cine, and then avoid us all the heartache that the rest of this draft had.
Yeah, this is not good. I don't need to belabor your point. I'm not going to give you guys an F. I'll give you a D+.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not good. Listen, Jalen Naylor being a number 3 at pick 191 kind of helped save that a little bit.
Yeah, maybe. New England Patriots, a C+ grade here, and Cole Strange was a part of that. Turns out that Cole Strange is an okay offensive lineman still, way overvalued for that pick. At pick number 29, you got Tyquan Thornton, who's still a receiver that's around in the league. Jack Jones, this is an interesting one because he's had some high grades, high PFF grades at times. However, 3 years ago, he was drafted. He has bounced around. The Patriots got rid of him because of locker room potential issues. Went to the Raiders. Raiders bounced him this offseason. So obviously, Jack Jones, while he has some talent, there is something going on there. Pick 121, that kind of makes me feel weird about that pick in general. You got Pierre Strong at pick 127, who has had some run as a rotational back in the league. Bailey Zappi obviously has seen some time with the Browns and different teams out there. At pick 137, you're getting some backup role player there. So, all right, I'm not completely against it, but the rest of this draft really not very good. A C+ grade is probably at this point the high end of appropriate for me.
Yeah, you could go all the way down to probably a C- because you're not getting anybody here that really.
Well, how many of these guys are still on the team?
Not many.
Cole Strange. I don't think Tyquan Thornton is still there.
Is it 3?
Maybe.
Marcus Jones?
Maybe.
Oh, fuck. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you're
not even worth looking. Not a good draft.
Not
and so they kind of got that one right. All right, Saints here with the C+. Chris Olave at pick number 11. That was a win. Obviously, a great pick there. Alontae Taylor at pick 49 at quarterback, also starting cornerback. Trevor Penning, they didn't pick up his 5th-year option, and they're going to see what he can do at guard. He has not been worth the 19th overall pick, but at least he is contributing some. DeMarco Jackson and Jordan Jackson, both not any names that stick out to me. So look, this draft got a C+. I think Olave plus Alontae Taylor make this tremendously better for me. Even Trevor Penning, despite being very bad value at pick 19, you are getting average to below average starter level play from him. I'm going to B- at worst on this one.
B- at worst? I was going to go with a B at best.
I'm feeling pretty comfortable at a B minus, even though that is my worst. I would be willing to maybe be talked into a B because Olave is obviously a super solid player. Lawrence Taylor is a decent cornerback.
Agreed. And Trevor Penning is trying to fail inward now. He's just so fucking technically unsound. I'm gonna go B minus. It's close to where they got him there, but
all right. New York Giants, an A minus grade here. They get Kayvon Thibodeau, Evan Neal, Wan'Dale Robinson. Three guys that have had very, very interesting careers. Kayvon Thibodeau looked like he was worth that 5th overall pick and has slowly kind of slipped. He is still a starter, an above average starter. We'll be really interested to see how he fits into a 3-man rotation there in New York this year. Evan Neal has been basically a complete flop. They're going to attempt to try him at guard this year. That is the last attempt at a salvation project for him. Number 7 overall. Like, that was one that most people had him rated very highly as one of the best tackles in this draft, and he has not lived up to that whatsoever. And then Wan'Dale Robinson at pick 43, he quietly had like an 88 reception season last year, like a very solid reception or receiver. It took him a little while to work into that role, but like we're seeing dividends now at this point in time. Pick 43, maybe a little bit high for that, but not too bad. Beyond that, Daniel Bellinger is a backup tight end, rotational tight end, still making it on squads. And I'm not really seeing anyone else out of this draft that is contributing at all. An A minus sounds appropriate if you thought Evan Neal was going to be any good. I'm still looking at probably a B minus in this draft because Kayvon Thibodeau, you're going to get either a solid trade value out of him or a good piece in a rotation if he has to bounce back year. Wan'Dale Robinson, good player for you there. So I'm looking at probably a B minus to a C plus actually with this draft.
Yeah, so this is tough to grade because Kayvon Thibodeau was pretty good and he's still on the team, but I don't know how long he's going to be on the team for. They don't want to pick up his 5th-year option. They're going to try to move him, I would imagine. So if they can get something back from him, the value is still great. But you still got, for the time that he's not injured, because he did face a couple injuries in his young career so far. He's been a decent player. Evan Neal, listen.
Monumental flop.
Yeah, you can't really go any other way. So when you have a flop that high, and then you're not picking up the 5th-year option on the other guy, and that's at 5 and that's at 7, you can't give him that high of a grade. In the regrade, you have to go much lower. I'm going to give him a C.
All righty. New York Jets, Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, Jermaine Johnson, Breece Hall, all fantastic players. They give him an A grade. Look, Breece Hall might have taken a step back last year, but that team was filled with fucking anemia, terrible stuff. These guys, all 4 of them, pick 4, 10, 26, and 36. They got good value at all those spots. I'm still giving this an A to an A plus.
Agreed. I was saying it from the moment we started talking about him. Sauce Gardner was going to be the best defensive back in this draft. He's pretty much shown that. The only guy that's even been close is Kyle Hamilton over this last year when they moved him back to that
Derek Stingley's become extremely good.
Very, very good. But Sauce hit the ground running. This is an excellent draft by the Jets.
Yep. An A grade here for the Philadelphia Eagles. Jordan Davis, Cam Jurgens, Nakobe Dean, Kyron Johnson, Grant Calcaterra. Calcaterra, tight end at 198, who is actually still a contributing member on this team. Nakobe Dean has worked his way back. They got him originally. A guy was considered like a 1st-round pick, but dropped due to injury and size, and he has been contributing on that team this last season. Cam Jurgens, starting center at pick 51, and Jordan Davis, starting defensive tackle. This is an A grade. I'm probably still leaning towards an AA plus with this one.
You'd have to consider that probably as well. I thought Nakobe Dean was going to be better, but the injuries kind of have slowed him down. Jordan Davis, we were wondering what his career would look like. He's just a huge man who's part of an excellent tandem or now a 3-person rotation of guys that can just get after the pass rusher. And the fact that you go out, you get your replacement for Hall of Famer and Jason Kelce. Yeah, this is a fucking good draft for sure.
Yep. All right, Pittsburgh Steelers, Kenny Pickett at number 20 overall. That tells you something. George Pickens, solid value there at pick 52, despite the fact that he might get himself a felony at any moment. Marvin Lee, Calvin Austin III has, I guess a pick 138 isn't terrible value, but everyone else in this draft is pretty bad. An A-. This draft is not. I'm giving this a C+ because you got one solid player out of this in George Pickens, and Calvin Austin is, I would say Calvin Austin III is no better than what my Vikings gotten in much later pick in Jalen Nailor. So I'm giving this a C+.
So I would agree. I would not. It's definitely not. C+. I think Connor Hayward is still on that roster. It still gives him a little bit pop as a second, third tight end. So I mean, but the Kenny Pickett, obviously, that is not. It didn't work out. They shipped him off. They shipped him off to Philly. Philly ships him to Cleveland. He's going to compete against a couple of rookies here. We'll see what the hell happens. But yeah,
Super Bowl winning quarterback. Yeah. 49ers. All right. USC edge Drake Jackson at pick 61. Don't remember him either, but as you know, a 61st pick, that's expected. Tyrion Davis-Price has had a little bit of run as a rotational backup guy, not a whole lot. I don't know anyone in this draft except
the last
Brock Purdy, which makes this one just a very difficult evaluation. Now they don't have a first round pick because they gave it up to move up to get Trey Lance. Look, this is tough. They gave him a B- at the time. You got yourself a starting top 15 potential, top 10 potential quarterback in this draft.
Do you? Because they have to pay him. And that has not fucking happened yet.
You have to pay good quarterbacks. You do.
Look, are they going to do that? Are they willing to pay Brock? Because there's a lot of contention there.
Sure, but at this point, what you got out of Brock Purdy blows almost everything else away in this draft. You got top 15 to top 10 level quarterback play for the past 3 years in Brock Purdy, with the last pick in the draft. I'm probably giving this a B+ because of him. Realistically, terrible draft, except for Brock Purdy. And that alone swings me probably to a B.
I'm just trying to figure out if I know any of these motherfuckers just off the hand. Because
Tyrion Davis-Price is he has been on and off of teams, on and off of practice squads. That's about it.
I think the only reason I might remember him is he's a 3 name. But it's Brock Purdy. You can't go anything better than probably a B-. The
Niners eschewed other needs to pick Purdy as Mr. Irrelevant. The former Cyclone passer could be a long-time backup in the league with his tools and competitive nature.
What a nice little write-up that was.
It's fun to look back at the past sometimes. C+ grade for the Seattle Seahawks. They take Charles Cross, number 9 overall. Boye Mafe at number 40. Kenneth Walker at number 41. Abraham Lucas in 72. Kobe Bryant at 109. Tariq Woolen 153. Tariq Smith, Bo Melton, and Derek Young. Look, Cross and Abraham Lucas, correct me if I'm wrong, both still starters on this offensive line, a line that isn't great, but still starters on this line. Charles Cross, probably an overdraft there. Boye Mafe is part of their defensive end rotation. Kenneth Walker, we have seen what he can be and what he has done as a starter / rotational starter with injury issues. Kobe Bryant and Tariq Woolen, both fantastic picks there at 109 and 153. This is not a C+ grade for me. This is definitely like an A-.
So it's not a bad draft by any means. Tariq Woolen was huge. The offensive line picks here, Abraham Lucas has not been good. Rated 68th out of the tackles, and then Charles Cross, I believe, is also not performed. I don't want Charles Barkley's contract. I don't give a fuck about that. However, I love the fact that Charles Barkley's contract is high on the search
Google search machine.
Yeah. Charles Cross is playing well, ranked 10th out of tackles last year at PFF. So that's a good pick. Boye Mafe has been okay ish. Kenneth Walker was a good pick, but obviously injuries have kind of slowed him down. You got to love the later round stuff here, though. Like the Kobe Bryant, the Tariq Woolen, that stuff. That's great. That's good for the Seahawks. So that takes him up. I'd give him a B+.
Alrighty. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, an A grade here. They get Logan Hall at defensive end, Luke Gedeke at guard, Rashad White running back, Cade Otton, Jake Camarda, the punter, tight end Ko Kieft, Zaya McCollum, and Andre Anthony. I'm not sure if Logan Hall is competitive, playing backup, whatever at this point, but I do know Luke Gedeke is starting offensive lineman and pretty decent. Rashad White, I'm not a huge fan of him. Pick 91 isn't bad value for a backup running back who's part of a rotation. Cade Otton has turned into a pretty damn good and reliable tight end, at least as of this last season. And Ko Kieft, also a backup tight end on this roster. I'm not giving it an A grade, but I would say a B+ because Gedeke, Rashad White, Cade Otton, and Ko Kieft are also on this team doing things that are good for him. Specifically, Rashad White, Gedeke, and Cade Otton. All are contributors on this offense. Considered starters.
It's not a bad draft. Now, Rashad White is going to lose a lot of playing time and touches moving forward, but he is a third down guy. He's a guy that catches the ball out of the backfield really well. I don't know that he's ever going to be a number 1 3-down back. He's a guy that fits really well, nicely in a room as your scat guy. Gedeke is a starter. Otton has been good. Baker has a pretty good rapport with Otton. So this is worked out pretty well. A is pretty high. I'd go A-, B+. But when you're talking about guys that are not, stars, it's hard to get up in that A range. I'm gonna go B+.
All right. Tennessee Titans, an A grade. Woo!
Ass.
Traylon Burks.
100%
Roger
ass.
McCreary, who? Nicholas Petit-Frere, started a bunch low PFF grades. I believe he was a free agent this season. Leak Willis got some decent run with the Packers this year. Not great. Hassan Haskins, Chikazi Conquo, I don't know how to say that. One good guy out of this group, Theo Jackson, cornerback, number 204. Didn't make the squad. Vikings picked him up. He is now one of our starting safeties as of this year. Good job there, Tennessee, for letting him go. This draft is ass.
Terrible.
D- at best. And I've given him a D- on an F for Theo Jackson because that's my boy.
I haven't given anybody an F. Fuck, this is close. I'm gonna go D.
Chose to send away AJ Brown.
Okay, F. All right, F.
There
F,
you go.
F.
All right.
There we go. Because I have to take into account what you do with all the picks. There's an F.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Washington Commanders with a B grade here. Jahan Dotson, who has kind of had a tumble. Fedarian Mathis, Brian Robinson Jr. running back, turned out pretty decent there. Sam Howell no longer on the team. He's a Minnesota Viking, part of the quarterback rehab school. Headed with a dean of quarterbacking, Kevin O'Connell. That's means he's going to be the next great thing. Look, the B grade here. Brian Robinson has turned into a pretty solid player. Jahan Dotson looked like he had a little bit of run there. It has not worked out. And again, like Brian Robinson is a decent rotational piece. I'm probably looking at like a C grade here for this draft.
I'd agree. Brian Robinson, I like as a back. I like him, I think, more than you do. I thought Jahan Dotson had a chance to catch on, but at 16 overall, it's a huge overdraft there. Obviously, the number one target there is Scary Terry. And I just want to know how many goddamn Chris Pauls there are that are trying to play football. The only Chris Paul I knew played basketball. But we just had another Chris Paul come into the league this year.
Yeah, Pooh Paul.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
Not that type of poo, but Winnie the Pooh. And that's it. That's our draft from 3 years ago. Look, a lot of grades here from Chad Reuter that were A's. Not a lot that I would consider to truly be A worthy. This is just an interesting experiment. I would caution everybody from looking at your team's draft grades right now and saying, we won. We are going to the Super Bowl within the next 3 years, because you might have an A grade like the Tennessee Titans and be ass for the next 3 years. it might put you in a position to pick number 1 overall in the current year's draft.
Yeah.
It is a good idea to look back and see what some of these draft grades were and how things actually turned out. Go back further than 3 years, go 4 years, go 5 years, because we're at that point where those guys are just getting off of those rookie deals and moving on to next contracts or not with their current team. It's a good experiment to go back and see, okay, maybe it's worth me tempering my expectations. Maybe Shadur Sanders falling to the 5th round was a good thing, or he shouldn't have been drafted. Or maybe he becomes okay. We'll see. You don't know. We don't know how the draft is going to turn out until you actually see these players on the field. And even then, it takes a couple years of maturing and seasoning for these guys to actually become something. So don't jump to conclusions too fast.
Yeah, definitely do not jump to conclusions too fast. And just realize that everybody who makes one of these bold predictions, and this goes for myself as well, like we like doing it because you know what? It's fun. That's what this show is for, in my mind. We are here to entertain. There's a lot of people that are very, very smart that are paid to talk about football. I think we're fairly smart, but I want to be more entertaining than anything else. So we're gonna talk. We're gonna dole out grades. But the truth is, me, you, and damn near everybody else has been talking about it recently a lot. We don't know anything until we get these guys on the field and we see what happens, right? Now, obviously, I'm very invested in Shadur being good, but we have no idea what's going to happen with anybody until everything plays out. But it's still fun to talk about, fun to bullshit with you, my man. Evo, I appreciate you. But you got anything else before we get the fuck out of here?
No, man. Your game is just about over. Bill, looks like a minute left. You're up by 7. My game's about to start. Got to go get ready to watch that and give the woman some smooches because she's home from work now, and I hear her just shuffling around in that kitchen. So
yeah. All right. Well, tell the old lady we say hello. Man, thank you very much, guys. This is Raw Dawg Sports. Thank you very much for tuning in. We're going to be back next week, Tuesday, 8:00. Tune in. I don't know what we're talking about yet. We're going to figure that out throughout the week, and we'll let you guys know. But we got a long off season of football. Schedule release will be coming up soon. Once the schedule is released, we're going to have some plans that we have to figure out and some more big time announcements to make for Raw Dawg Sports. But with that, Evo, give the people one last word before we get out of here.
Bring that ass, Draymond. Bring that ass.
Guys, thank you very much. This is Raw Dawg Sports. I'm Mike. That's Evo. Anytime you give some of us your time, we are forever grateful. Time is the most valuable thing that you have. So whenever you tune in, it just means the world to us. But with that, we're going to get the fuck out of here. We will be back next week. See ya.
See ya.